Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming along. Thank you to the civic leaders for coming to this event, and thanks to everyone in the Chamber of Commerce and to Clive for organising it. This is my first speech since the election, and it's no coincidence that I've chosen to come to the north of England, to the great city of Manchester, to talk to you about building a northern powerhouse, closing the decades-old economic gap between North and South was in our manifesto. It featured in the speech that David Cameron made on the steps of Downing Street last Friday, and is one of the main reasons that I wanted to return to the Treasury to finish the job. It will take time, and I'm realistic. We're not always going to see overnight results, but we should not passively accept that compared to the rest of our country, the relative economic decline of the north of England is inevitable. We can reverse it and create a balanced, more healthy economy for working people across our United Kingdom. And if you want a metaphor for what we can achieve, just look at our surroundings here. This building has a proud heritage. It was part of this city's industrial history, built when Manchester was the workshop of the world. And then it went into decline and it spent a number of years derelict. And now it's been renovated and has become an important cultural and event space in this city. The story of this building, its evolution, its success, is echoed in towns and cities across the north of England. And I can see it in the official data too. Yesterday we learnt that employment in the north is up by 151,000 in just 1 year. Unemployment here has fallen by over 20%. A new job is being created here in the north every 3.5 minutes, and the north is growing faster per person than London. And frankly, that has not been the case for much of the last 30 or 40 years. Over a long period, under governments of all political colours, our economy has become unbalanced, and our capital city has come to dominate more and more. And the answer is not to pull London down. It's to all of our benefit. We have one of the great global capital cities in these isles. What we need to do is build up the rest of our country. Now, in the last couple of years, that has started to happen. But to really close that long-term growth gap, we need to take further radical action, and that is why I'm here today. Just under a year ago, I came to the Power Hall in the Museum of Science and Industry and set out a vision for a northern powerhouse. I proposed a new approach to rebalancing the economy, not just moving public sector jobs around from one part of the country to another, but growing the private sector so we can have real and sustained growth that supports great public services. Not imposing remote and artificial regional bureaucracies, but building on real local economies and the cities and the towns that people actually feel they belong to. Above all, it was a vision based on the solid economic theory that while the individual cities and towns of the north are strong, if we enable them to pool their strengths, they could be stronger than the sum of their parts. And that's because one of the paradoxes of the modern knowledge economy is that technology has not pushed people apart. It has drawn them together. People want to cluster together in communities, feed off each other's ideas. And city size matters more than ever before. Firms need access to increasingly deep pools of human capital. People of talent and ambition and drive want to live in places with great schools, great jobs, fast transport connections, sport and culture. And that's why cities that were once hollowed out are now filling up. Economic evidence shows that there is a powerful correlation between city size and the productivity of its inhabitants. The top 600 cities in the world contain just 20% of the global population, but they contribute 60% to global GDP. And that was the powerful thinking behind the City Growth Commission that Jim O'Neill, who joins us today, led with such imagination. It's the thinking behind the collaboration from the local authorities here, and it's great to see people from different authorities here, from different political parties, that produced the One North report. It's what my great colleague, Michael Heseltine, grasped the need for, frankly, decades ago. And it's what my new cabinet colleague, Greg Clark, has long understood too. Within 40 miles of Manchester, you have Leeds, Sheffield, Liverpool, Lancashire, Cheshire, Yorkshire, a belt of cities and towns that contains 10 million people, more than Tokyo or New York or even London. Bring those cities together. Connect Liverpool to Hull, the northwest to Yorkshire and to the northeast, and the whole will be greater than the parts. Now, when I gave a speech here in this city a year ago on the Northern Powerhouse, I will confess this. I wanted it to be the start of something special, but I am a realist and I knew the odds were against me. A Conservative Chancellor, many Labour local authorities, Liberal Democrats in coalition, and a huge cynicism in many quarters about what we could realistically achieve. That was just 11 months ago. But since then, we've made more progress than I dared hope was possible. We've created, with your help, Transport for the North, and started to develop detailed plans for high-speed rail east-west across the north of England. We're making record investment in transport, which will see key roads upgraded and the North's railways improved with new trains and electrification. We've worked with the great universities of the North to make major science investments, like a £250 million Sir Henry Royce Institute in the city with links to Leeds, Sheffield and Liverpool, an idea that barely existed a year ago, or the new investment in the Centre for Ageing in Newcastle. And by having everyone from the Prime Minister down fighting hard for it, we've just made Manchester University's Jodrell Bank the global headquarters for the new square kilometre array. That is the largest experiment in the world history of science. We've worked with the NHS teaching hospitals. We've funded the groundbreaking Health North. We've committed to exciting new cultural investments too, from the new factory in Manchester, a great new arts venue here in the city, right through to promoting Yorkshire as a home of world cycling. And then, last autumn, across the political divide, we reached an absolutely groundbreaking devolution agreement with the elected leaders of Greater Manchester. And when I proposed the idea a year ago, it seemed a distant prospect. Now it's becoming a reality. We're devolving power over policing, skills and housing. We're giving the city control over transport, including bus franchising. We're devolving power over £6 billion of health and social care budgets. And we're bringing it all together with the accountability and the leadership that an elected citywide mayor will provide. And I want to thank the civic leaders of Greater Manchester for the courage and the imagination to work across the parties with me to make this happen. We have put the power into the Northern Powerhouse. And I think we've caught the imagination of a nation that was looking for new answers. And that's what we've achieved in 11 months. Now imagine what we can achieve together over the next 5 years. Some people have said to me, it's all about Manchester. What about the rest of the North? What about the rest of our country? I've just spent 6 weeks travelling around the country, being asked, why can't we have a powerhouse here, in the Midlands, in the West Country? I was even asked by one television reporter, when are we going to have a southern powerhouse to match the North? Now, let me be candid. I think if I had tried to deliver simultaneously new devolution settlements in every major city at the same time, and tried to get every city authority to accept new elected mayors, it simply would not have happened. And getting Manchester through the Whitehall machinery, overcoming the political divide, was difficult enough. But I always thought this: if I could work with you to achieve this new model of civic leadership and local power here in Greater Manchester, I could hold it up to the rest of the country as an example of what was possible. If we here could step through this door to a better future, then others would follow, not by force, as national governments have so often tried to change local government, but by example, by choice. For we all know that the old model of trying to run everything in our country from the centre of London is broken. It's led to an unbalanced economy. It's made people feel remote from the decisions that affect their lives. It's not good for our prosperity. It's not good for our democracy. And as I said when we first set out our plans for a Northern Powerhouse, we needed fundamental change. And this is the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to deliver it. And that is precisely what we intend to do. not just in the north of England, but across the nation. We'll deliver the devolution to Scotland and to Wales that we promised. But today I can tell you we'll go much further and deliver radical devolution to the great cities of England. I say to these cities, it is time for you to take control of your own affairs. So a central part of our Queen's speech will be a bill to enable a radical new model of city government. And here's the deal. We will hand power from the centre to cities to give you greater control over your local transport, your housing, your skills, your healthcare, and we'll give you the levers you need to grow your local economy and make sure that local people keep the rewards. But it's right that people have a single point of accountability, someone they elect who takes the decisions and who carries the can. So with these new powers for cities must come new city-wide elected mayors who work with local councils. London has a mayor. Greater Manchester has agreed to have a mayor as part of our Northern Powerhouse. And this new law, the heart of the Queen's speech, will make that happen. I will not impose a mayor on anyone, but nor will I settle for less. My door is open to any other major city who wants to take this bold step into the future. This is a revolution in the way we govern England. It is power to the working people of our country, and it means a stronger democracy and greater prosperity for all. Let me go into some more detail. Confront head-on those who say, why do you need to have an elected mayor to have this radical devolution of power? Can't we just give it to a committee of local leaders or officials? We do need local leaders to work together. And the Manchester model of devolution is not like London. We haven't created a new assembly here. We've built on the excellent cooperation you've established with your combined authority, as you asked me to do. Other cities can find the mayoral model that works for them, but it has to involve a citywide elected executive mayor. So let me be crystal clear today. We're not imposing a mayor on anyone. It is up to local people to decide whether they are interested in their communities taking part in this new revolution in city government. But equally, I am not interested in a halfway house. We will transfer major powers only to those cities who choose to have directly elected metro-wide mayors. But there's a reason why almost every major world city has an elected mayor. It's a proven model that works around the globe. It's a powerful point of accountability. It's a person vested with the authority of direct election. It makes the devolution of multi-billion-pound budgets and powers from policing to housing possible. And having a powerful elected mayor will give Greater Manchester, and other cities too, I hope, a powerful new voice in our national life. And that's what we need if we want to prevent our great capital city dominating more and more. It's what we need to go on attracting global investors here. Manchester's a powerful brand known all over the world, and it will have a new elected citywide champion to represent it and promote it to the rest of the world. I want other cities with other champions. Now, we already passed in the last Parliament the secondary legislation so that Manchester can appoint an interim mayor and make sure we then build on the direct elections we want to hold. Now we're going to go further. On the 27th of May, the Queen's speech will be read. It will include a new city devolution bill. This law will pave the way for Greater Manchester and, importantly, other cities as well, to take greater control and responsibility over the key things that make a city work, from transport and housing to skills and key public services like health and social care. It means that by the end of this year, the legal framework will be set so that any city can proceed to implement a mayoral devolution deal. Now, this week, the Prime Minister appointed my colleague, James Wharton, to the government, an MP from the North East, now a Minister in the Communities and Local Government Department for the Northern Powerhouse. He and his Secretary of State, Greg, will take the legislation through Parliament. And to help drive forward these changes, I have another announcement to make. I've already mentioned Jim O'Neill's name today, and he was the chair of the City Growth Commission, whose work has inspired the thinking behind the Northern Powerhouse. He's one of the world's top economists, and he's the man who invented the term the BRICS and changed the way everyone viewed emerging economies. Well, today Jim has a new role. I'm very pleased to announce that the Prime Minister has appointed him to my department as the Commercial Secretary to the Treasury, a Minister in the House of Lords, right in the heart of the government, in the department that historically fought tooth and nail to stop giving up power. We have a brilliant new minister to help make devolution and the Northern Powerhouse happen. And we had to make the announcement near Old Trafford, didn't we, Jim? But Jim's also, of course, going to lead our work on infrastructure investments. He's going to help us with those links to those emerging economies that he knows well. And he will continue to lead the antimicrobial resistance review, which many of you will have heard him talk about today on the TV and radio, which is vital work. The government, of course, fully supports it, and it's going to help secure the future health and welfare of the people of this world. So, it's a formidable team, working with formidable local leaders here. And I hope we can go further and faster in devolving power in this trailblazing city of Greater Manchester. We're already piloting the retention of business rates here and in the neighbouring local authority of Cheshire East. It's good to see Michael here. It's time to think whether we should go further down the road of fiscal devolution, so that you take control of raising more of the money you spend, and from my way of looking at things, you see the rewards from the taxes that you cut. We are piloting the devolution of some aspects of employment support here, and I want to see if we can go further there too. But we can't build a northern powerhouse with just the big cities of the north. Half the economy of the north of England is outside its big cities, so we'll empower the towns and the great counties of the north too by extending a form of the City Deals programme we ran in the last Parliament to cover counties and towns too. There are great economic strengths to build on outside the biggest cities, whether it's the nuclear cluster in Warrington or chemicals on Teesside, and I want councils and local enterprise partnerships here to come forward with plans to build on their strengths too. There are great universities here as well. They're a key economic asset of the North, and I want to see their strengths recognised through the creation of prestigious new Regius professorships. And to turn great ideas into great products and jobs, there are more clusters of industries in the North that could benefit from the creation of further enterprise zones, so we'll be inviting bids to create more enterprise zones. I want these sorts of opportunities available across the whole of England, in the Midlands, in East Anglia and the South West too. I said we would start to do all of these things within the first 100 days of a Conservative government. And we will, starting in that Queen's speech. When I stood up in Manchester a year ago, I said I wanted a northern powerhouse not to rival the south, but to be its brother in arms as we fight for Britain's share of the global economy. For let's remember this, working people here have exactly the same aspirations as everywhere else in our country. To be able to get a good job, to buy their first home, to make sure their children get a good education, their family get great healthcare. I'm determined they should have the same chance to achieve those aspirations. I don't want any child growing up in any part of Britain to feel like the big opportunities are all happening somewhere else, happening for someone else. I don't want the ideas, the ambition, the energy, the creativity of any part of our nation to go to waste. We are one nation. And there's no way to build a strong economy and a strong United Kingdom unless we spread opportunity to every part of this land. And our plan to do that starts right now. Thank you very much.